Well, I've been taking Perform and Heal, and I had a question for you regarding that. I take Perform before I work out, Heal after I work out. Let's say that there's a day that I'm skipping a workout and I'm just, I need more rest. Would I bother with taking the Perform?
Yeah, I think
Still
that.
still take it?
Yeah, I think that the perform is less on a day off. The perform for me, I take the perform every morning. It's to me, it's more effective than a cup of coffee, and it does help your alertness and so forth, and it does have an effect on muscle. The heel is going to be more anabolic in terms of promoting muscle turnover than the perform. Perform is more for alertness, but it sort of gets my engine going a lot better than a cup of
Yeah,
coffee.
I
So
know. I
I
noticed
take it
the
anyway.
the Heal has what is it? Whey protein isolate in it also, or
Yeah. The
and
whey protein has the reason whey protein is so popular as a dietary supplement is that beyond just the amino acid components of whey protein, which are a favorable ratio, in the process of digestion, there are peptides formed that are little chunks of two and three amino acids that have a beneficial effect as well. So there's a certain advantage to whey protein when you compare an amino acid formulation versus whey protein, the amino acid formulation is more effective. But the whey protein has certain advantages. It prolongs the time that amino acids are elevated in the blood because it takes longer to digest. And there are these peptides that have some effects as well. And what we found, and this was substantiated in a program, a publication, and individuals undergoing ranger training, where you have
going through what training?
ranger training for
Oh,
special
Ranger.
ops
Yeah,
for
yep, yep,
military.
yep.
That in that setting you have a very low caloric intake and a very intense period of exercise for a few weeks, and that the combination of the protein and the amino acids activates the amino acids not only serve directly, but they activate the effectiveness of the whey protein, so that we get a interactive effect between the whey protein and the free amino acids in the formulation, which exceeds that of either one alone in terms of maintaining uh, the muscle function and mass.
Interesting. Interesting. So I have a weird question that goes on something you said earlier when you're talking about working with the NASA astronauts, and I'm a weird person, so here comes the weird question. The astronauts, because of the lack of gravity, they're getting their muscles are atrophying. Uh, does that mean, like, let's say you were spending a lot of time in the water, like swimming a lot? Would your, and not swimming, but just like spending time in water, because of the amount of pressure on you, that the pressure's higher than just being in air, would there be an anabolic effect at all to the muscles because of the pressure?
Well, it's an interesting question. Actually, not that weird because people use hyperbaric chambers to increase the pressure with that idea, but there's not really any data to support the notion. It makes sense the way you describe it, and as I said, people with more money than they know what to do with will buy hyperbaric chambers to be pressurized in the
Hmm.
hope that that's going to provide, that's going to be a substitute for exercise. Uh, that we that's been tried extensively in severely burned patients. I worked at the hospital for severely burned children for 30 years, and the hyperbaric chamber was used in specific cases. But for the average person, I don't think that really has been shown to be beneficial.
I have a friend who's a big fan of amino acids who's been telling me for the last 10 years that I need to start taking them. And he's the healthiest guy I know. He's 60 years old. He looks like he's 30, and he swears by them. And he just was always telling me, I don't know why you're not taking essential amino acids. I don't know why you're not taking them. And I said, and I hadn't done enough research on them. He's created a hypobaric chamber that he uses, that he had built in Australia. It's this $1 million machine, and they've got it at the Mayo Clinic in Arizona right now, working at the sports clinic or whatever it is, and they're doing tests on that where they exercise inside his hypobaric chamber, where it's not hyper, it's hypo.
Yeah, well, I had the team physicians for the Norwegian Olympic team worked in my lab for a couple of years and was explaining I think it was like 1984, where the Norwegians won every single cross country skiing event, every medal, and their program was to and they one of the there was quite a long time people were training at altitude because at altitude with less oxygen in the air stimulated the production of the red blood cells,
Mm-hmm.
which gave greater oxygenation. But that the problem with training at altitude is that it limits how much you can actually do. And so what they found was the most effective was that they lived in a hypobaric chamber. They had a whole house developed to be able to have a low barometric pressure to simulate that they were living at altitude, but then they would do their training at sea level. So this chamber was at sea level, but they were doing just the reverse of what you said, and that is they were training at sea level and living the rest of the time at altitude.
Interesting.
And living at altitude increased the red blood cells, and it was just like blood doping. But the actual workouts they did at sea level, so that they could really maximize the amount of work they did. And the reason that they abandoned this was entirely that the athletes felt it was sacrificing too much to just have to live in a chamber, all the time. So they don't do it anymore, but it was very effective for the period of time they did it. So
his machine, what it does is it takes you it simulates altitude and then
right,
brings you back down, takes you up, and there's thousands of changes so that you never acclimate, and it takes the pressure out or sucks the air pressure out because it's hypo,
right.
and you're going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So there's never you're never acclimatizing, and it's thus creating red blood cells. So they're doing studies on it right now to get his
Yeah,
white
well,
paper.
there definitely is a basis for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. And he's the craziest person I know, but somehow he always ends up being right. And he told me about essential amino acids forever and ever, and I didn't believe him. And here I am, big believer now. So,